Good morning, sir. Good morning, cadet. So we are to report about the global demography, the global migration, and the global citizenship. But before we start, let me say that this video is for educational use only. Our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, allow us to use this as an educational material. So now, we will start.
Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. I'm Indian Cadet Christian Colorado. We're gonna discuss the theory of demographic transition as it affects the global population. So next is, what is demographic transition? So, demographic transition is a theory that society progressed from a pre-modern regime of high fertility and high mortality to a post-modern regime of low fertility and low mortality. The cause of the transition has been sought in the reduction of the death rate by controlling epidemic and contagious disease. Then, with the modernization, children become more costly. Cultural changes weaken the importance of children. The increase of empowerment of women to make their own productive decisions leads to smaller families. Thus, there is a changes in values emphasizing the quality of children rather than their quantity. In short, the fertility transition is becoming a universal phenomena in which every country may be placed on a continuum of progress in the transition. So next, demographic transition affects global population. So based on the theory of demographic transition, so mataas ang mortality rate sa country or sa place due to lack of sanitation. So kung lack ni of sanitation, magawas din ang virus and diseases. So mag-cause og pandemic og epidemic. So apilan pag yun og low facilities ang mga hospital kay poor man ang ang country. So apilan pag yun mo og di pa yun modern ang medicine. So dagan og reason anong mataas ang mortality rate sa usa ka country or usa ka place. So nganong ma-affects man sa global population kay daghan mamatay. So ang global population mo decrease. So in terms naman sa high fertility rate, so kung taas gay fertility rate ang usa ka country or usa ka place due to nindot ang facility sa hospital, nindot og facility modern ilang medicine, naka-educate, so ilang country kay dato, so nay job opportunity. So ang mga parents maka-afford o pa-hospital silang anak sa private or ma-public man na siya kay dato man ang country. So matambalan na dayon, so dili sa mamatay. So another chances nga mo survive ang bata. So ngano ma-affect man sa global population, so mag-increase, so mabuhi man ang tao, so mo increase din ang global population. So one of example ani kay karon nga pandemic. So as we all know nga daghan jud namatay ning pandemic, so over 1 million. So unsa may naka-affect ani sa global population, so ni decrease ang global population kay daghan man namatay sa pandemic. So mao na ang example sa affect mao na ang example sa demographic transition affect to global population. So next is analyze political, economical, cultural, and social factors underlying the global movement of people and displays first-hand knowledge of experience of OFW. So in terms of political, ang reason nga namo-move jud ang tao sa usa ka place or usa ka country kay due to war. For example na lang kaning Ukraine and Russia. So gasigi pa man sila away, so ang mga tao mo ato og lain nga borders para lang ma-save ilang lives. So next, in terms of economical, so ang reason ang tao mo atog lain country or mo lain og place kay higher wages man siya and better employment and higher standards of living and educational opportunities. So sa cultural kay migrate experience multiple stress that can impact their mental well-being, including the loss of cultural norms, religious customs, and social support system, adjustment to a new culture, and changes identity and concept of self. So, in terms naman sa social factor, so the social effects of migration among others consist of change in family composition, so family separation and abandonment of old people, child outcomes in terms of labor, health, and education. So the experience naman sa OFW. So first jud ang ma-experience jud sa OFW is homesick. Kay nabaghuan man sila sa environment sa other place o sa pasad layo iyang pamilya niya, na culture shock sad siya sa usa ka lugar. So next is communication gap and cultural difference. So mo na niya akong gi-state kay lain man nga culture ang lugar, so maglisod sa adjust. So next is financial. So instead of maggasto gani ang mga OFW dito, ila na lang i-save alang money. Yang uban gani, ila na lang ipada silang family. Instead of magbuy sila og mga new clothes, mga new gadgets, o kuan, ila na lang i-save. Kay dira man gyud dako ilang sweldo. Naman gyud kasagaran ana nga kamay og sweldo. So lastly is maltreatment and others maltreatment. So naman gyud man news nga naigipatay nga OFW. So sa maritime na ay gilabay sa dagat nya gidunggab, gikulata. So mao na nga di jud lalim nga mag OFW kay layo pa sa pamilya nya wa pa kay maduulan nya ma-stress pa jud ka. So that's all my report, sir. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Anjuri Pansay, and now I will discuss about the articulate personal definition of global citizenship, and I appreciate the ethical obligation of global citizenship. A global citizenship is someone who is aware of and understand the wider world and their place in it. They take an active role in their community and work with others to make our planet more peaceful, sustainable, and fair. And at a global level, their responsibilities include the responsibility to understand one's own perspective and those of others, and to protect the principle of cultural diversity, to make connections and build social and working relationships with people from other countries and cultures, to understand the ways in which the people and countries of the world are interconnected and interdependent, to understand leading global issues and their national impact, to advocate the practice of global citizenship in their own countries, especially for their implementation of international agreements, convention, and treaties. And now, kanay siya kay mao ni siya ang mga kuan sa atong kalibutan or lungsod sa lain-lain na lugar or sa tuwa ba. Example kanang global warming, like namutol siya lag kahoy, like sa katong mga una na mga issue atong una pa jud nga kanang nindot pa kayo ang atong komunidad kay daghan pa kay mga kahoy. Then nabot ang panahon na gipamutol o ginahinay hantod mao na ni karon ang atong naagian kay tungod sa mga kahoy nga gipamutol nga niinit may atong lugar kay tungod sa ozone layer nga like uban nga kanang magdaob sa kaingin or magpamputol sa kahoy dili niya kani siya kay need ni siya og kanang kuanat need ni siya sa mga bagong tubo karon na dili padayon na nga isyu sa mga niagi kay dili na maayo para sa atong komunidad. Ang atong buhaton ni kay mag kuantal like magtanom og mga kahoy sa mga buntod para iwas landslide mga nana kay dili na kayo kapugong sa garon mga sa mga isyu karon kay dili na makapugong ang mga bukid tungod kay wala na dagkong kahoy. Then kung pananglitan kung sa laing lugar nga naapoy kanang like tsunami mga dili maayo nga panghitabo nga kanang moabot sa atong higayonan, kailangan punta nga makigtabang nila or like natay giingon nga aktibong papel kanang like rules. Naam gyud tay rules ana labi na kanang makuanan ana sa laing lugar kanang like tabang or donation para makigtumbayayong ta sa uban para mahimo ang atong planeta nga mas malinawon. Then sa ani nga kuan natay pagpanalipon nga sa prinsipyo sa pagkanilayan sa kultura aron makahimo nga koneksyon ug magtukod og social ug pagtrabaho ang mga relasyon sa mga tawo gikan sa ubang mga nasod ug kultura aron masabtan ang mga paagi diin ang mga tawo ug mga nasod sa kalibutan nalambigit ug nagsalig sa usag-usa aron masabtan ang nangunang nga mga isyu. Mao ni akong giingon ganina nga kanang like mga katong mga kahoy nga gipang putol kay gipang kuan sa mga balay or unsa ba dili to angay padayon kung panalitan manggaling na iputol nasad sila ipuli kay para dili mausab ang atong komunidad ug dili ma like kanang murag kanon sa sistema ang atong lungsod. Then sa bagong tubo karon kung kuan kailangan kung putulog kahoy man gani or something mas dako na percent na magtanom ta kay para mabalik to ang sa una nga kuan ug wala na kayo ang mga air pollution ug kanang mga planta na sa mga sentro sa atong mga lungsod kailangan po na sila nga kanang kuan nga like kanang ilabay og tarong ang ilang mga hugaw kay para rasad na sa atong komunidad para rasad na sa para malinaw ang atong lungsod ug maurasad na.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, cadets. I'm Engine Cadet Harlot C. Lanyon. So my topic of my report is what is global migration in contemporary world? So as you think, what is global migration? Global migration is debated just about as often as it's misunderstood. However, the reasons why people migrate differ depending on an individual situation. In this post, we will explore that what exactly is global migration, dissect its current state, highlight some of the factors that cause global migration, and study the pros and cons associated with global migration. As a global phenomenon, people are moving just about everywhere. In particular, Quartz Media LLC indicates that the largest area of regional migration is from Southeast Asia to Middle East, which is largely due to oil construction booms on the Arabian Peninsula. The biggest flow between individual countries is between Mexico and the United States, the latter making up the largest single migrant destination in the world. Many migration routes are within the same countries and regions with people moving to neighboring countries. How people migrate depends greatly on each nation's current immigration laws and the safety of the route itself. While some migrants are able to travel by airplane or train, others do not have the same luxury. Those looking to enter Europe through North Africa often face particularly perilous route and extremely overcrowded boat over the Mediterranean Sea, sometimes with a Saharan desert directly beforehand. Transportation is one of many examples of how migration can take drastically different forms. Global migration can be understood as a cause and effect relationship, though the causes are just as emergent as their effects. People move across international borders for a variety of reasons, including first is the safety, next is the natural disaster, third is political conflict, fourth is the education, fifth, family, sixth, career, and last is the economic betterment. So that is the one of the cause why people go to the other places. So this is the push and pull factor. Some of the reasons that trigger global migration can be explained by what's known as pull-push factor. Pull factors are factors in destination country that attract the individual or a group to leave their home. These factors attract people to a new place largely because of the opportunities presented in the new location were not available to them previously. An example of a pull factor would include a family moving from a country with minimal job opportunities to a new location with more opportunities for a successful career. The beneficial elements that a new country presents encourages people to migrate there in order to seek a better life for them. A push factor refers to conditions which force people to leave their homes. A person would typically move because of distress, safety, natural disasters, political conflict, as what I've said earlier. So, although push factors don't require a person to leave their home, the condition impacting the push factors often negatively impact the quality of life for a person if they choose to stay. Places that experience drought and famine, war conflicts, and/or high unemployment would contribute to push factors that trigger migration for the country's residents. Push factors, particular, are often underestimated in their popularity and frequency, which is emphasized by Manpower Inc.'s survey of employees across 27 countries. In this survey about relocating internationally, 82% of respondents said that they would move for a pay increase. 74% would move to increase their career, and 47% would move to learn another language. In short, people migrate for all kinds of unexpected reasons. Whether individuals migrate due to push or pull factors, there are undeniable benefits involved with adapting to a new country. Some benefits are simply fun and exciting, learning a new culture and experiencing new opportunities, such as tasting new foods and getting to know a different approach to communication, or immersing yourself in the new cultural activities can be exciting and enriching. Other benefits, namely personal freedoms, are essential. People may leave their home country in search of safety and religions, academic or political freedom in their new countries. It's estimated that around 11 million Syrians have fled their homes since the outbreak of the civil war in March 2011, many fleeing for their safety in search for a better quality of life for their families. In this example, migration can improve people's lives drastically. Migration can present a great variety of challenges, ranging from simple discomfort to profound shifts in mental health. Migrating to a new place where the diet or the local culture is largely unfamiliar may be quite jarring. Imagine moving from the US where drinking coffee or tea in the mornings the cultural norm to living Central Asia where in some parts drinking salty yak butter tea in the norm. Culture shock is predictable culprit for migratory challenges. Changes in language, diet, politics, religion, and environment are immediately visible. For example, those who migrate from the Middle East or Africa are aware of the difficulties of adjusting to colder temperature in Scandinavia. What might that be? As obvious though, is the challenge of adjusting to extremely short daylight hours in the winter, making seasonal affective disorder an anticipated hurdle for many immigrants. Furthermore, the act of leaving a home country can be emotionally difficult, especially for those who may never able to return and were forced out by situations that they couldn't control. Having to immigrate as a refuge from a war-torn Syria. Break up families can destabilize immigrants' sense of self, which could lead to depression. These challenges obviously should not taken lightly. Help and support are key. So that's all about my report.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. I'm Indian Cadet Inson John Paul, and I'm here to report about the four types of global migration. Actually, there is four types of global migration, and we're gonna tackle all about this one by one. First is the labor migration in the EU. Labor migration represents the movement of individuals from one country to another with the purpose of seeking work or responding to recruitment drives in another country. However, in labor migration, it is possible to identify two types of migrants. First is the highly skilled labor and the unskilled low-wage labor. High skilled labor migration represents only a small percentage of migration, and it is the type of migration most demanded by the most countries who develop special types of insensitive to attract highly skilled labor, often in specific categories such as doctors and nurses. The attraction of highly skilled labor lies in the ability of the host country to accumulate human capital with no education or training cost. However, the loss of skilled labor, a phenomenon known as the brain drain, can have severe consequences for the sending countries, which lose human capital and all the money invested in the education and training of people who leave. Nevertheless, it can be seen as an attractive solution for solving problems of labor shortage and a way to increase economic production. Since the 1980s, the USA, Canada, and Australia have had specific policies to attract skilled labor in particular categories, using a point system to score applicants who wish to immigrate there. This policy has been followed more recently by middle-aged people who are from specific sectors, or for example, medicine or computer programming. Second is the unskilled low-wage labor and temporary migration. After 1945, unskilled low-wage labor was the main type of migration which played a very important role in the economic reconstruction of the industrial countries. Not all of this immigration is legal, and some countries such as the USA have been very attractive to illegal migrants, especially from Mexico and other Latin American countries willing to work in the black economy. In 1988, Sassen, in her approach to global cities, referred to the dual economy, which uses these low-skilled laborers as a primary source for the low-wage job in industry, construction, and domestic service. This constitutes the largest percentage of economic migration and is the process that attracts more attention from the media and social organizations. Unskilled low-wage labor is usually also linked to illegal migrants who clandestinely enter the host country. Such people are the most vulnerable to unjust exploitation and human rights violation because they have an illegal status. If they remain there frequently and end up staying in deprived areas and joining a community of deprived people and are unable to climb out of poverty without help. The next type of migration is the forced migration. Forced migrations includes not only refugees and asylum seekers fleeing a war or political repression, but also people displaced from their homes by projects such as dams or roads or as a result of certain natural disasters. Has also referred to another mode of forced migration, the trafficking of people with special emphasis on women and children destined for the sex industry. While some countries may be favored destination for such migration, asylum seekers to Britain have been issued in recent years. Other countries which do not otherwise picture as places receiving large number of labor issued in recent years. Migration may in fact welcome asylum seekers. Scandinavian countries, for example, the educational level of many refugees, especially asylum seekers, may be quite high. Their exam may result from their being politically active students, for example. Or in the case of people displaced by civil war, it may be very low. Some asylum seekers return to their native country if the circumstances there improve. Many assimilate into the local ethnic communities and become part of the multicultural society, often having relatively low socioeconomic status. These migration, which are similar but not strictly associated with retirement, since they involve people in middle or late career leaving their job and moving to rural areas in other countries, such as British people to rural France. They telework or set up business, but in essence, they are looking for the same lifestyle as the retirees. That is a less stressful life, a better quality of life, and perhaps the chance to live more cheaply on the same income. The third is internal migration. This type of migration occurs inside a particular country and between regions, especially from economically poor areas and rural parts to major cities. The effects during the 1990s can be explained by the social and economic disadvantages to living in some areas. This trend, which had occurred in Western Europe for centuries, had been more or less arrested in the Eastern Bloc due to social controls, but once for socialist system collapsed along with the economies. Large-scale migration occurred with which the cooperation of many of these countries with the EU became transformed into international labor migration. The pattern of internal migration can be quite complex and have profound effects on land use, as well will be clear. In France, for instance, there is a north to south movement. However, in the old industrial areas of the north, there is also out migration. But in this case, the Paris region, while the inhabitants of the latter trend moved south, attracted by good image of quality of life and healthy economic dynamism associated with cities such as Toulouse and Montpellier. Counter-urbanization is another type of internal migration and represents the movement of people from urban to rural areas. In England, contradicting the world's tendency, this movement is increasing and has been observed since 1980s. This phenomenon is characterized mainly by the in-migration of older couples and relatively well-off families, which balance the rates of younger groups moving into cities and can be explained by poor drivers. And that is all for the types of global migration in the
Good morning everyone, I am Cadet Gilbert Sergor and I report why there is a global migration. Migration is often driven by the search for better livelihoods and new opportunities. Indeed, global and regional social and economic equalities are expressed most powerfully through the figure of the migrants as one who cross the borders in search of work, education, and new horizons. Humanity has always been on the move throughout history. We have migrated in search of new opportunities as well as to see escape persecution, conflict, and poverty. Movements of people happen all around the world, but although migration is a global phenomenon, there is still the global understanding of how to manage it. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Kent Anthony Siapari and I'll be tackling the advantages of receiving and sending the immigrants countries. So first, immigration diversifies local economies. Immigrants bring new perspectives, experiences, and ideas to their local communities. Immigrants start businesses, earn income, and support others on the local level. This creates an increase in local production, which creates more profits, which further helps the economy. Second, it increases the population base. To achieve the goal, they first had to be a legalized immigrant. Their presence does more than bring and exchange cultures. It allows for more knowledge and wisdom to be shared with others by increasing the cultural awareness of everyone. Lastly, immigration negates gaps that form in certain labor markets. In low-skill employment areas, it is true that a strong presence of immigrants may decrease wages because immigrants can relieve employment bottlenecks. They reduce the risk of underperformance issues occurring in the local economy. When the income levels of immigrants rise, so do the income of every other household. First, money sent home by immigrants. Sending countries is the payment of remittances, the sending of money back home. These large transfers of money, the prosperous developed world to the poorer developing world, are often viewed as the key of the latters. Second, migrants may return with new skills. Migrants acquire skills abroad that allow them to earn higher wages than non-migrants when they return. Last but not the least, unemployment is reduced and people get better job opportunities.
Good day everyone, I'm Engine Cadet Andres Abati Jr. So I will continue the report of Engine Cadet Aparis. So let's start. So sometimes people have a choice about whether they move, but sometimes they are forced to move. The reason people leave a place are called the push factors. The reason people are attracted to new places to live are called the pull factors. So the first disadvantages of country losing people. People of working age move out, reducing the size of country's potential workforce. In the case, people of working age much prepare on what other country has work to offer. So the growth of economy of their country may tend to decrease due to migration. So the next disadvantages of losing countries is, so the second disadvantages is gender imbalance are caused as it is typically men who seek to find employment elsewhere. Women and children are left. In this case, it means that men will going to leave their families in order to have food to feed through migrating, and they have no choice because the expenses and they have families. So the third disadvantages is brain drains if many skilled workers leave. In this case, the company of its country, if other people nor workers may leave, the owner will surely drain on how to lift back his or her company due to the kind of situation. It causes bankrupt and loses its company. So the disadvantages of host country. So increasing cost of services such as healthcare and education. In case the tumbling prices reflect decades of improvements in technology and productivity, but the effect is not economy-wide, though no mystery. This rise is often misunderstood with serious economic consequences. The host country did not even have the guts to fight the most important things people needs, the healthcare and the education. So next is overcrowding. Of course, the host country will going to be more crowded. The population will grow as it finds due to a lot of people who migrate, but in this case, the growth of the host country will increase also. So disagreements between different religions and cultures. This is the most argument that people start to disagree with about the culture. We all know that we have different cultures and beliefs that not everyone agree, but the most important thing that we should consider as an individuals is understand and respect each other cultures and beliefs. Recent large-scale immigrations from developing countries have been provoked by world economy crisis and or by reactions to danger posed by armed conflicts. Migrants eventually induce social, economic, and political problems in receiving countries. In conclusion, receiving countries must have policies that responsible address the presence of economic immigrants and refugees on their territory without this being considered detrimental to the national interest. So that's all. Thank you.